Hey, you, what's the deal, my people? You know this is Don Tony Teflon, and I'm back at you another one. And this one is the ultimate movie trilogy tournament of all time. Now, this is for 3 movies, the greatest 3 movies in the history of movies. What could there be? There are a million out there. So I have come up with a tournament style to try to figure out what is the greatest trilogy of movies of all time. And I cannot do this by myself. It's impossible. So I have a great panel of judges with me. And judge number 1 is Don Willie.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Don Willie back again. Glad to be with my man Tony Teflon so we can take on the top trilogies of all time. Let's get it on.
No doubt, no doubt. My next judge I have, and these judges have seen all the movies, that is the criteria, is none other than Big Game, James Bushell.
Yes, my name is James Michelle, and I am happy to be joined here, or happy to be here with Tony and my friends, and we're going to talk about some great movies and some bad movies, but we are going to find out what's the best trilogy.
No doubt, no doubt. And also, for another judge, we have someone who has almost as much attitude as Tony Teflon the Don himself, none other than Jerry, the Targaryen Steamboat.
Glad to be part of this panel of experts. So let's get ready to hype this train going. Let's get this hype train going.
No doubt, no doubt. And last but not least, none other, my main man, Sir L.T. Giles.
What's up, everybody? You know, anybody knows me knows I love movies, so this is a great opportunity to be on the Don's channel and talk about these great trilogies.
That is what's up. So now we have broken these up, the number 1 seeds, into 4 brackets. And the number 1 seeds, first we have the Star Wars bracket, which is episodes 4 through 6. And then we have below that the Back to the Future bracket. And on the other side, we have the Lord of the Rings bracket. And then we have the final bracket, the Toy Story bracket. So what we are going to do is judge these movies in the trilogy, all 3 movies combined. What is the best trilogy of these movies? All right, and after we all have our pick, whatever movie gets the most vote is the one that moves on to the next round. That is the way we're going to do it. So we are going to start right off the bat in the Star Wars bracket with the first seed, number 1 seed coming out the gate in that bracket, Star Wars 4 through 6. And it is going up against the Blade trilogy. Now, this was going to be, I don't know how hard to pick this one, but let's start with L.T. Giles. Who are you going with in this round?
This is a no-brainer. I love Wesley Snipes as Blade. If they ever pick another actor to play Blade, I think it would be boring. But anyways, Star Wars. Come on, I gotta go Star Wars.
Jerry.
I mean, what could be said about Star Wars that hasn't already been said? I mean, it created a new mythology with the New Hope, and then Empire was one of the best just movies of all time, with one of the greatest twists of all time. And I mean, you know, Jedi could have been better, but let's compare it to the Blade trilogy. You have one good movie with, you know, Wesley Snipes really brought the Blade character out in a time where comic book movies really weren't all that hot. You know, he made it pretty good, and it was a real entertaining movie. Then we get to Blade 2. Oh, good God. I mean, it was kind of entertaining. The chick was hot, but overall, fuck that movie. I don't even want to. I'll let James talk about Blade 3 because it's obvious Star Wars for me.
James, who are you going with here?
Look, you know, I actually kind of think that Star Wars might be kind of put on a pedestal, you know, maybe a little overrated, but, you know, this is we're talking Star Wars against Blade. All right, like, yeah, like Blade 1 is okay, but Blade 3 is a steamy pile of crap. Almost killed Ryan Reynolds' career. Like, he's had a couple movies that almost killed his career, but this one was like the first one almost killed his career. And Triple H was in it. I mean, come on. It's Star Wars all day.
Don Willie, is there any chance for Blade? Can you show Wesley Snipes some love in this one, Don Willie? Can the brother get some love?
All right, man, listen. In the words of Wesley Snipes in Passenger 57, always bet on black. And by black, I mean Darth Vader. So yeah, man. Look, uh, I like Blade 1. Personally, I thought Blade 2 was actually better than Blade 1. Blade 3, whoa. I can see why he sued Marvel for that one. Uh, Look, you know what? Yes, Star Wars does kind of get put on a pedestal, but I think it's for good reason. Look at the cultural influence that it has had. Look at the influence on other movies, uh, TV shows. I mean, look, as good of a concept as Blade was, I mean, think about it. Blade actually, especially Blade Trinity, was supposed to be the start of a bigger shared universe. I mean, they actually tried to do, an MCU before there was an MCU, and it would have started with Blade. So you got to give them credit just for at least trying to do that. But overall execution, I got to go with Star Wars just based off the fact that the movies were just, altogether a better package, and as the trilogy is concerned, I think they told a much more coherent story. Blade sometimes took leaps in logic, especially when it came to Whistler. I'm like, how the hell did he survive to Blade 2? Don't get me wrong, I love to see him in there, but it was just kind of like, I don't think he's supposed to be here right now. But, we kind of let that go because, who doesn't like Chris Christopherson? So, yeah, man. I know you wanted somebody to give it to Wesley, but I'm sorry, man. I got to go with the original Man in Black, Darth Vader.
I hear you, and I will have to say Wesley is not Nestle. I have to go with Star Wars myself, and that's a clean sweep for Star Wars. Blade, listen, I think the thing I got from Blade was that the dislocating jaw of vampire changed the vampire genre. I think that's the biggest takeaway I got from Blade. As for Star Wars, I can't give you all the stuff that we got from Star Wars. It's just too much. We got a billion things from there. And whether it's the sound, just the sound of the lightsaber itself is just that's one sound is more iconic than anything that ever happened in Blade. So I'm going with Star Wars. That is the clean sweep. Next, we have Robocop versus the Naked Gun franchise. Now, these are two different types of movies here, but I'm not going to give my opinion. We're going to go around the horn with this. Jerry, who do you got?
All right. Well, the Naked Gun series. I mean, what can we say about Leslie Nielsen? The guy is just a master of playing it straight and being funny as fuck. I mean, the dude he's just hilarious and like that. I mean, he's like, calm down, no one, nothing to see here, and everything's mayhem in the background. It was great, stupid comedy. But man, I have to say one thing. Robocop 1 was pretty badass. You have the dad from that '70s show as the villain, and you got all these fucking robots just blowing each other up. And they're blowing each other up big. Like, this is a gory movie. Even though a lot of kids saw this movie, there was guys getting, blasted bad in this movie. And, yeah, Robocop 2 and Robocop 3, especially Robocop 3. In fact, Robocop 3 was, I think Frank Miller took a part of that. And, he went away from Hollywood for years after that movie because left a bad taste in his mouth. But I think it all comes down to, I never saw Naked Gun get a video game. I had a lot of fun with RoboCop games, and I had a lot of fun watching the RoboCop movies. So, going with RoboCop.
RoboCop it is. RoboCop it is. Big Game James, who are you going with?
All right, I'm not the hugest Naked Gun fan. The comedy didn't really hit for me. Naked Gun 1 was pretty good, but I would say out of the 6 movies, my favorite film out of the 6 movies is by far and away RoboCop 1. It's a hard R, fun movie with satire, dripping with satire of the current state of what was happening in in terms of like economics and all this stuff, and like social issues. But RoboCop 3 is a steaming pile of garbage. You got smiling robot ninjas in that movie, and I can't let that go. I gotta go with Naked Gun here.
All right. And for good reasons that I hear you. Don Willie, who are you going with here?
Wow. Smiling robot ninjas. Wow.
Smiling Robot Ninjas versus OJ. Take your pick.
Oh man. See, here's the thing, right? So, Naked Gun is supposed to be a parody. It's supposed to be ridiculous slapstick, as opposed to RoboCop. RoboCop, yes, while it did have social commentary, about just the corporate greed run amok and just kind of the ills of unfettered capitalism. Yeah, dude. Yeah, oh man. First off, let's go to RoboCop 3 and the kid drug dealer. There's a kid dealing drugs with like a collapsible machine gun, and it's like, would you like to take this nuke or whatever the hell that drug was called? I mean, oh good lord, wow. Yeah, fucking Naked Gun, man. I'm not even gonna talk anymore. Naked Gun.
Naked Gun. L.T. Giles.
Yeah, so Leslie Nelson is funny. Just look at him. He doesn't even really have to do nothing. He's just funny. But and I thought Naked Gun 2 was really funny. But I'm definitely so. RoboCop was also parts of it when I was a kid. So when they're killing Murphy, and I can't remember the villain's name, but he's like, no, 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 no. My brother would always make me laugh, and then they're alive. You're coming with me, and drop it. And then we used to go to this Pizza Hut place when I was little and play the RoboCop arcade. I love RoboCop. RoboCop, hands down.
RoboCop it is. Now, we have our first tie. And I guess the Don gets to break the tie. So, let me say, RoboCop was the first movie, the gun in the leg, was the rapid fire hand pistol. Something I've never seen before. I was loving everything about it. Naked Gun. Funny as hell. Funny as hell. But I would have to say that I think that Naked Gun accomplished what it set out to accomplish better than RoboCop did over the long haul. And for that reason, I'm going to have to pick Naked Gun. And the Naked Gun gets to move on. So the next group of movies we have here are, and this is probably one of the toughest ones in the first round, folks, right now. The Dollar Trilogies versus Terminator. And we're going to start with Big Game James Michelle on this one.
This is how I look at it. If I was actually ranking all these films, right, I'd probably actually have Terminator 2 and Terminator 1 as 1 and 2, followed by the whole Fistful of Dollars trilogy. Got Fistful of Dollars, for a few dollars more, and The Good, the Bad, and Ugly. Of course, all classic Western films. Now, this is where the problem lies, because you have these 5 movies here, and then you got Terminator 3 way down here. So I, just based off of the law of averages, in terms of best trilogy, I have to give it to the Dollars trilogy, just because I can't prop up Terminator 1 and 2 when they got Terminator 3 as an anchor, dragging it down to the bottom of the sea. So I got to give it to the Dollars trilogy.
No doubt, no doubt. Don Willie.
So, yeah, Deion Sanders had a failed rap career back in the early 90s. And I know you might be wondering, what the hell has this got to do with this movie trilogy showdown? Well, the one song that I do remember him having was kind of a remake of an old 80s classic called Must Be the Music. And his version was called Must Be the Money. And for me, when I'm talking about, which trilogy stands the best, this one, it must be the money, because I'm going to have to go with the Dollars trilogy.
Must be the money. I see all them girls around me. Must be the money. Yeah, the Zeus suit on that motherfucker.
Yeah, you remember that one? Playing out with MC Hammer and shit.
Willie's picks the Dollars trilogy. Sir L.T. Giles. The Terminator has not gotten any love yet. Are you the one to show the Terminator series some love here?
We should have a separate video for who had the worst rap career, Kobe, Shaq, or Dion. No, I agree with James Michelle here. I mean, I love Terminator 1, love Terminator 2. They're both flawless movies. Now, Terminator 3 was pretty garbage. I mean, I liked it a little bit, and it's just, I got to give it to Fistful of Dollars because they're all great movies. You don't have a weak point in those movies. And yeah, so I have to agree with Jimmy B and go with Fistful of Dollars. Even though I love Terminator 1, Terminator 2, I have to go with that.
No doubt.
Oh yeah, and then Dion, I remember in that video, he was in a tub full of money. It was so funny.
That's Neon Dion, son. That's prime time. So, Jerry, who are you going with?
Well, okay, let's start with Terminator, the first one. That is my number 4 all-time favorite movie, that first Terminator. It is a mix of, different blends. It's got that cyberpunk thing going. It's got the, the time-traveling sci-fi future thing going. It's got kind of like a detective story going with the, the whole Reese thing, trying to track down and protect his, someone. It's even got a little bit of a love story going on with Reese and Sarah. And it also has a little bit of a horror thing, with the stalking killer, the Terminator. And it just all mixes that in well and just comes out with a fantastic movie that just, it's got that, it's a closed loop. It's just it's one of the most perfect films, ever. That's why it's number 4 on my time. As much as I like Terminator 2, I think is a bit overrated, and I think story-wise, it really didn't have that much going on. It was a fantastic action movie, though. The action was top-notch, and the special effects were groundbreaking for its time. That was what really made that movie, was how awesome. I mean, they look great still today. I mean, who didn't get excited when you saw the fucking T-1000 go through the fucking bars? That was just badass. Terminator 3 gets a little bit of unfair rap, in my opinion. It did pretty much what Terminator 2 did, but it did it on repeat. It's we still haven't stopped the war. Story-wise, it's the same thing. And it had a lot of action, a lot of blowing up. It had a lot of fun. But with Terminator 3, it wasn't as groundbreaking special effects. It wasn't as groundbreaking with the action. It was just it was more of a formula tile. It's kind of a repeat formula for 3, so it wasn't that great. I mean, it was good. In my opinion, it was good. You got what you paid for, but it wasn't that great. The Dollars trilogy, I mean, it was all revolved around the same man, and they all have the same kind of, the man with no name, Clint Eastwood. But really, he was only the star of the first movie. And the second movie was, who remembers the actor's name, the older man who played Angel Eyes in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. He really stole the show in the second movie, and it was really all it was great. It was another, for a few dollars more. I mean, that was awesome. And then they added Eli Wallach, and he stole the show in the third movie. And they brought back, I forget his name, and Clint Eastwood for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and that was the best of all of them. And I would say all these movies are similarly good, and they all rank around, the top 50 to 80 in my list. And so because of that, I'm going to go with the same logic James did. Law of averages, give me the Dollars trilogy, even though I love Terminator 1.
Yeah, I hear you. Terminator 1 is a perfect 10 movie, without a doubt. There's nothing wrong with that movie. No one can ever tell me that I can watch that movie at any point it is when that movie gets turned on. If I turn the channel, wherever it's at, I can stop and watch that movie. Love that movie. But when you have Terminator 3 bringing up the rear, I can't fucks with you. In the Dollars trilogy, there's not a bad movie in it. So without a doubt, I'm going to have to go with the Dollars trilogy on this one. And it's a clean sweep for the Dollars. Yeah, I really thought that the Terminator would have got a little bit more love than that. But geez, nothing clean sweep right off the bat. All right.
Maybe it was going up against Blade or something.
It did get a hard matchup right off the gate. That's a tough one. Tough one there. So we have our last matchup in the Star Wars bracket, and that is The Matrix versus Iron Man. Don Willie, The Matrix versus Iron Man. Who takes it?
Okay, so this one is hard because both trilogies had phenomenal openings, but I would say that The Matrix had the better opening. Both of the second movies, very questionable. Both third movies was like, what the fuck are you guys doing with this? You had some good shit here, and you just said, hey, remember all that good shit you liked in the first movie that we kind of got rid of in the second movie? We're just going to do more of the same and get rid of even the good shit that was possibly in the second movie as well. Look, you know what? This one is kind of headache-inducing to a certain extent because it's like, which is worse? The convoluted way that the Matrix trilogy ended on, or the nonsensical, I'm blowing up all of my fucking profit-making suits, and I get saved by the chick who's been a damsel in distress for the past two movies, miraculously at the last end. I can't pass this one, can I?
No.
I got it.
No, sir.
Fuck, man. Alright, fuck it. I'm just gonna flip a coin. Heads, Matrix, tails, Iron Man, and alright, tails got it. Iron Man.
Iron Man for Don Willie. It was like pulling teeth for Don Willie. He didn't know where to go with that one. It's all over the place, but he finally settled. It's hard to know. Tony Stark, Keanu Reeves, Neo. When you first seen Neo, he was great. When you first seen him, Tony Stark, perfect casting, both characters at that particular time. Cutting edge stuff in the Matrix that basically became Max Payne type situation going on in that situation. LT Giles, The Matrix, Iron Man. Who do you got?
This is kind of hard. All right, the first Iron Man, almost perfect, like an 8.5. It's just I've watched it a lot. I've watched one. Number two, I've watched one. Huh?
You said it was almost perfect and gave it an 8.5?
Yeah, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. Number two, I've seen one time. Number three, I fell asleep on in the theater, so I give minus points for that. Matrix, the first one is a perfect 10. I've watched this movie so many times. Number two, it had one of the best chase scenes I've ever seen. I'm not a chase scene fan on the freeway. Number two was alright. Number three was alright. So it's really tough, but I'd have to give it to The Matrix.
The Matrix for LT Giles. Jerry, who you got?
I mean, it's kind of like what Don Willie said. First two were phenomenal, and they started a revolution, but in different ways. As we know, Iron Man, they kicked off the Marvel Universe. I mean, it was just a great movie. The villain was kind of stupid, and I don't know what he was doing, rummaging across New York. Did he think if he killed Tony Stark, he was going to get away with it? Like, everyone saw him, but it was still a good movie. You know, we got introduced to Tony Stark and his kind of comedy. We got introduced to what exactly the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the kind of tone that they would be going from here on out. You know, and I never thought that, you know, I'm a comic book reader, and I never thought Iron Man would make such a good movie. I was like, Iron Man, this guy's a B-lister. This is a B character. What are we doing? I was like, I don't even know if he can make his own movie. But no, I was 100% wrong. It was an awesome movie. Iron Man 2. Oh, that's where things started going sideways here. I mean, Mickey Rourke's villain his Whiplash. He just didn't cut it. You know, War Machine was cool. I did like what was the competing guy's name? Justin Hammer. Justin Hammer in that movie. He was kind of funny. But yeah, it was kind of like a lot of things were stupid. Finding a new element, blah 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 blah. It was nonsense. The third one was a decently made movie, but it didn't fit in the Iron Man. It was Shane Black trying to be Shane Black with Iron Man. I'm like, come on, dude, make an Iron Man movie. He's trying to make, you know, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with Tony Stark. I'm like, it just didn't work. They ended up screwing over the Mandarin, and so. Yeah, it really fell on his face in the third one. The Matrix, I mean, what can you say about The Matrix? It was, like, not only was it groundbreaking in special effects, you know. I mean, how many bullet time effects did we see? It went crazy after seeing this movie. It was even parodied in things like Shrek, you know. And then also kind of the way they floated and everything. You know, you saw that go in different movies as well. And also, I mean, it was just a good, like, telling, like, I mean, they had, like, an analogy, you know, like, to the, you know, story of Christ, where, you know, he dies, gets resurrected as the one kind of thing going on there. And it was just a good movie, and it had no, it fit, when it finished, it was a perfect ending. There was really no need for a sequel. But the money was there, so they had to make a sequel, and Reloaded was all right. It had a lot of interesting things to say, but it was heavily dependent on, like most of the conversation and the dialogue was like, it's coming. Something's coming. So it was heavily dependent on the third movie wrapping it up well, and the third movie did not wrap it up well. It was just a convoluted mess. Ergo, I am going to have to pick Iron Man over. Oh. Even though I like the first Matrix better than the first Iron Man, I can at least watch Iron Man 2 and 3 again. Whereas the Matrix 2 and 3, there's really no point to watching unless I feel like saying, you know, ergo, if, else, then, if, else, you know, all kinds of computer language nonsense.
Ergo, concordantly, vis-a-vis.
James Buchel, The Matrix, Iron Man. Which was the better trilogy?
All right, Iron Man 1, I loved. It started the MCU. We all love the MCU. Yeah, Iron Man 2, I thought was actually the worst out of the Iron Man trilogy. Iron Man, because I do think Iron Man 3 is entertaining. It's just the whole Mandarin thing was stupid as fuck. But aside from that, I gotta keep it real. I might be the only one, but I think the Matrix 1 is overrated. I think it's overrated. And I think Matrix 2 and Matrix 3 is mired in philosophical bullshit, and it's so pretentious and douchey. I can't watch it. You put a gun to my head and tell me to watch Iron Man 2 10 times or just watch Matrix 2 and Matrix 3 once, I'll pick Iron Man 2. I'd watch that 10 times over watching those other two piece of shit movies. So I am going to say Iron Man, and it's not even close. This wasn't even close to me.
I hear you. The Matrix is very cutting edge, had a lot of different things going on there, but the Don Tony Teflon, like that. Iron Man 1 could be the greatest superhero movie ever made, point blank. From top to bottom, I think it's a perfect movie. It's a great movie. As for trilogies, Matrix 3, I don't even remember it. I just forgot about it because it was so terrible. These twins, everything. I don't care about those last two movies really when it came out. It just went so down south in Matrix 2. 3 was just horrible. So without a doubt, I'm going with Iron Man. And Iron Man moves on to the next round. And that ends the first bracket, and now we move underneath it to the Back to the Future bracket. Yeah, Back to the Future, number 1 seed in this bracket, going up against pretty stiff competition, Mad Max. That's pretty stiff competition in my book. We're going to start this one off with Don Willie.
All right, so Mad Max, the trilogy, and I guess we're talking about the original with Mel Gibson and Beyond Thunderdome and all that other good stuff, right?
Yes,
so,
sir.
you know, it's funny. I only recently saw the original Mad Max, right? And the original Mad Max is weird as fuck, and it doesn't have the same. To me, it doesn't pull you in like Road Warrior and Beyond Thunderdome. Beyond Thunderdome does get a little, you know, into the woods at times, but it's still a fun movie to watch. The Back to the Future trilogy. Yo, listen, man. Back to the Future, the first one, you know how Biggie talked about, you know, let the tape rock till the tape pop? I did that literally with Back to the Future Part 1, man. I used to rewind the beginning where he plugged in the guitar to that giant speaker and he just went flying. Yo, I used to rewind that back and forth like, you know, 20 times in a row before I would even get to the rest of the movie. Look, the music in there is absolutely classic. You know, the whole concept of traveling back in time and seeing your parents as youngsters and seeing their whole hypocrisy. They, like, you know, when his mom was talking about, oh, you know, I don't like you hanging out with that Jennifer because, you know, going parking in cars with boys and all that stuff. And what was she doing? Parking in cars with boys. So that was, you know, a real crazy thing to see. Back to the Future Part 2. Yo, come on, man. Hoverboards, Nike, the Nike Air Mag, you know, the Max Headroom, Michael Jackson, Ronald Reagan going on. I mean, come on, man. Like, we're in 2016, and still I look at that movie like, yo, how come Back to the Future Part 2 couldn't be the real fucking future? How come that couldn't be, you know, the real shit from now, man? And even Back to the Future Part 3, as crazy as that was, it went back to the Old West. And it's funny because, you know, it's one of those things where it kind of has a crazy influence on time, the whole Clint Eastwood thing, and the man's moonwalking, and, you know, people are looking at him crazy because he got on the wild getup, you know, in the Old West. But, man, yo, you know what? I'm gonna have to go with Back to the Future, man. And the nostalgia on that is just so crazy, and I just love those movies to death, man. I love Back to the Future, the whole shit, man.
No doubt. If you didn't pick it, that would have been, to me, a huge upset. If this thing does not sweep the category, I'd be very amazed. And that's why Tony Teflon's going to give his pick right now, and that's just straight up Back to the Future. It's not even close to me. It's not a comparison. Back to the Future is classic. It's the #1 seed for a reason, and that's why it's there. LT, who are you going with?
You know, I've been playing the video game Fallout 4 a lot lately, and in that game, it has a lot of Mad Max stuff, like you fight raiders and stuff, and, you know, I love my man Mel Gibson, and I like a few of the Road Warrior movies. They're okay, but this is the easy one for me. I mean, fucking, the only time I've ever did this in my life, my mom took me, my little brother, and my older brother, and my sister to go see Back to the Future 2. That was so good, we stayed and watched the movie again. We watched it twice. You know, there's just so many things we could talk about all three of the movies. A lot of people say that number 3 is not really good. But I love number 3. You know, I love them all. So Back to the Future, hands down, not even close.
Nice. Jerry.
Well, okay, so Mad Max, the first one, we got a nice little tale of revenge here. You know, he gets he's a cop. You know, he's arresting these biker gangs in a post-apocalyptic world. You know, where biker gangs are running wild and fuel is scarce. He ends up arresting them. I think he ends up killing one, and then they take revenge by killing his girl, and then he takes revenge on them. You know, it's a classic kind of revenge story, but, you know, it wasn't executed that well. It was kind of boring at times. It wasn't edited that great, but it was a low-budget movie, so I guess we'll give it a little bit pass there. But even still, even though it was a low-budget movie, it wasn't the best of it. Road Warrior, wow. When we get to Road Warrior, you know, Mad Max is a vagabond, and he's like a wanderer, and he's become hardened, and you know he runs into this village. You know, you get to see a little bit more of this universe, this Mad Max universe, how apocalyptic it is, you know, and then we get introduced to one of the greatest movie villains of all time, and Lord Humongous. Now, if anyone who hasn't seen this movie, Lord Humongous is basically what we're getting ahead here. Christopher Nolan, Batman with Dark Knight Rises. He didn't cast Bane. He didn't use Bane. Bane is like a what do you call it? A Puerto Rican lucha wrestler kind of guy.
Yes.
He said, okay, I'm gonna cast Lord Humongous in this Batman movie and call him Bane. So if you want to know what that's exactly who Lord Humongous was. So I mean that's how cool this villain was. And then they just had an epic, you know. It was like a whole, the gang it was kind of like a magnificent, you know, Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven kind of thing, where big bads are coming, we got to protect the good people, and it all happens throughout an epic, you know, road race, which it was just awesome. The Road Warrior is one of the best movies I've ever seen, and you know, Mad Max 3, Beyond Thunderdome, it's not as good of a flick, but it's fun at first. At least it opens really fun. So yeah, Master Blaster was badass looking, you know. And that fight between Master Blaster and Mel Gibson, that was awesome. And it was kind of cool how, you know, Master Blaster and like Tina Turner kind of both ran to town, and they were like kind of plotting against each other. I mean, that was a cool thing. And you know, LT mentioned the Fallout games earlier. Hubtown was based on Thunderdome. You know, the town of Thunderdome, like the way they trade and everything, like that's where they got it from. For anyone who's played the original Fallouts, Fallout 1 or Fallout, and but once he leaves, gets beyond Thunderdome and meets all the kids and stuff, and they have a little kind of a rehash of the Road Warrior. It's okay, but it's not as good. Really, the highlight is the beginning of that movie. So, yeah, I mean, Mad Max is pretty good, but come on, we're talking Back to the Future. The first one alone was damn near perfect. I mean, it was so clever and quirky, you know, the way they bring, you know, he goes back in time, gets his parents together. He's like, you know, he's bringing in like all kinds of pop culture, like when he tells his dad he's Darth Vader and he's going to melt his brain if he didn't ask his mom to the dance and stuff like that. I'm your density, you know. It was just hilarious and just great and fun. I mean, you can't say enough good things about the original Back to the Future. And Back to the Future 2, while it wasn't as good of a movie, I mean, it was so fun to see the future. Everyone, like Don Willie said, we want the future like that. It was awesome. And, you know, 3 wasn't as strong of a movie, but it was still, you know, fun times in the West. And, you know, it had a lot of the Back to the Future magic. I'm going with Back to the Future. I just can't get beyond Thunderdome with Mad Max on that.
Yeah, Back to the Future, you know, it's a rarity when you have a TV star that really just blows up with a movie that really is able to do that. It really never happens, and it just happened that time. James Rochelle, you have the last vote.
It doesn't really matter because Back to the Future wins, but I will say that out of the number 1 seeds from each bracket, I think this was probably the toughest one, but it really wasn't. I mean, Back to the Future is the superior trilogy, and I'm not even going to waste anybody's time. Let's just go on. It's Back to the Future.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Back to the Future wins that one, as it should. That's why it's the #1 seed, people. All right. So the next matchup we have here is, a little difficult matchup here, I think. We have the Hannibal trilogies going up against Batman's Nolan. Hannibal.
Why? Why? This is so tough, man. Silence of the Lamb is genius. Silence of the Lamb is just such a genius movie. It's like my ultimate fear, because Freddy Krueger doesn't scare me, Jason, but a real life cannibal that's like Hannibal that could just that terrifies me. And dude, you got the origin story like we've never seen it before. Even though I love the 1989 Batman, it's not an origin story. It's like the Dark Knight, the first one, and then we got the Dark Knight is amazing with Joker, and then I even liked the third one, Dark Knight Rises. This is just too tough, man. But I'm gonna have to go with the Cape Crusader on this one. It's hard, but Cape Crusader wins.
No doubt, no doubt. Jerry, who do you got?
Well, I'm not a big Brett Ratner fan. I hate what he did with X-Men 3, but I love what he did with Red Dragon. I thought he did it better than even Manhunter, and I liked Manhunter back in the day. And it was always good to see, Hannibal Lecter back, see Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. And then, Silence of the Lambs, I mean, that speaks for itself. It was an amazing thriller movie. It had one of the best characters, most terrifying, well, I don't know about most terrifying, but one of the most interesting characters of all time. In Hannibal Lecter, he was like this genius cannibal serial killer. I mean, and he was helping the protagonist Jodie Foster catch this fucked up serial killer who was killing women and making women suit out of them and dancing to Goodbye Horses and all kinds of crazy shit in his house. And there's a reason it won Best Picture. And Hannibal, it was just a big pile of crap. I don't even want to talk about Hannibal. That movie was garbage. It was garbage and a half. Okay, let's talk about Batman. I had been saying since that the Tim Burton movies, that wasn't Batman. I was like, we need something to really get that Frank Miller Batman I saw. Batman Year One, Dark Knight Returns. And, this was Warner Brothers listening and, giving us, with Batman Begins, it was basically they were inspired by Batman Year One. And they threw that on the screen, and it was awesome. It was like a realistic style kind of detective movie with Batman in it. And, The Dark Knight, not much more you can say. The Joker was awesome. It was another badass movie. Wasn't too big of a fan of Dark Knight Rises. It got a little bit away from the material, but it was still better than Hannibal, so I'm going with Batman.
He goes with Batman. James Buchel.
Yeah. Well, first off, I must say I am not the hugest horror fan in the world. I actually don't really like horror movies at all. But I did love Silence of the Lambs because I viewed it more as like a character piece, like a psychological thriller. I thought, Buffalo Bill was just creepy as hell. Ted Levine played the hell out of that role. Put the lotion in the basket. That shit is just terrifying. It's just fucking terrifying. Unfortunately, I feel like Red Dragon and Hannibal kind of went more like, I don't know, more like mainstream kind of slasher almost, more so Hannibal, but and just Batman. I mean, I love Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and I actually like Dark Knight Rises. I mean, yeah, it's got some issues, and Bane is not Bane from the comics, but I still like Tom Hardy's portrayal. It would have been cool if they just would have named him something different, I guess. But yeah, I had to go with Batman.
No doubt, no doubt. Don Willie.
This is kind of a difficult one because, Silence of the Lambs, classic. Hannibal, classic. Red Dragon. So Red Dragon was a little kind of iffy for me. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the movie. I I wasn't too sure about Ed Norton's character in there. So I mean that one kind of brought it down a little bit for me. I'm not the biggest Ed Norton fan. I mean I liked him in Fight Club, but other than that, yeah, I can kind of take him or leave him. Alright, and so when you go to Nolan's Batman trilogy, I mean, aside from Christian Bale's kind of crazy Batman voice, which you can kind of overlook that, even though I think it probably would have been a better look for them to go with a voice modulator than "Where's the trigger? Where's the trigger? Swear to me," and all that other kind of stuff that he does. I mean, with the Batman trilogy, I mean, the Dark Knight trilogy, to be more specific, I mean, I only own one of them, and the one that I own is the Dark Knight trilogy. So, yeah, man, I'm gonna have to go with James and Jerry on this one, man. Batman.
No doubt. I would say that the best movie out of all these is Silence of the Lambs is by far a superior movie than any of these movies. Out of all 6 of these movies, that's by far. But when you judge all 3 together, there's just no way not to go with Batman and Nolan. It's just impossible, and that's the bottom line. So we would have to say that Batman's Nolan gets to move on. Our next matchup is another doozy here. We have Pirates of the Caribbean going up against Captain America.
What can be said about this? All right. Captain America movies. Confession, I love all of them. I think First Avenger is underrated. I enjoyed it. I love kind of the 50s kind of camp around it. I enjoyed it a lot. Though Red Skull was kind of whatever, but it was I enjoyed the movie. Winter Soldier is one of my favorite movies of the past 5 years. Just a great political kind of spy thriller, very fun. I enjoyed the hell of it. Seeing Captain America and Black Widow had great chemistry together, and I thought, and with Bucky added into the mix, I thought that was a great emotional balance there, and it was a great movie. And Civil War, we saw some really cool shit with Civil War. The airport scene, that's something we've all wanted to see as comic book fans. And personally, I don't really like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies that much. Like, the first one's good. I don't even remember the second or the third one, aside from Davy Jones. I remember Davy Jones. But yeah, so I think you know my answer. I think you know that I'm going with Captain America.
No doubt, no doubt. Down Willie.
So I have to agree with James on many points. Captain America, the First Avenger, definitely underrated. I mean, I think it was a great period piece. It was a look at a different time and a different sensibility, not just in America, but in the world in general. And I think anytime that you get to peer into certain aspects of pop culture from a different era, to me that's always cool. The Winter Soldier, that was, I didn't know it was possible to make movies like that, especially superhero movies. It was like The Dark Knight was a tour de force in filmmaking, but it was so heavy. There was there was no levity to it at all. Winter Soldier was a heavy movie that you still got laughs out of. And that was the crazy thing. It was like, I didn't know that it was possible to do things like that. And then Civil War comes along, and it's like, wow, okay. You guys were able to balance a ton of characters, but at the end of the day, everyone knew it was still a Captain America movie. Not just because it had it on the title. It was like, no, this is a Captain America thing right here. And I absolutely loved the way that they did that. Now, on the other side of it, Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, I mean, look, you gotta give Johnny Depp all the credit in the world because I think he did a phenomenal job with pulling off this character. It's an original character, that he was able to endear himself to people with, and I thought that was excellent. But unfortunately, the surrounding cast is very forgettable. And if Johnny Depp isn't on point, the movies kind of fall apart. And by the time you get to the third one, it was like, all right, well, we like Jack Sparrow, but we got to see a little bit more than just Jack Sparrow getting into shenanigans. You know what I'm saying? And Cthulhu, aka Euron Greyjoy. I don't. Yeah, it got a little weird with all that, with Davy Jones and the damn tentacles on the face and all that other kind of shit, man. It just got a little bit too out there for me. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Captain America.
No doubt, no doubt. LT Giles.
I remember I had a whole lot of fun with the first Pirates of the Caribbean. I was on vacation in San Diego visiting my brother, and we all went and saw it and I had a good time. It was really good. I didn't like the sequels that much. Captain America is so funny. I was kind of pissed when I found out Chris Evans was going to play him because he was the Human Torch from. So I was like, he can't play two superheroes. What are they doing? I was completely wrong. He nailed it in all the movies. I got to go with Captain America on this one. So yeah, Captain America for me.
No doubt, Captain America. Looks like so far three Captain Americas going down. Jerry, what do you got?
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think Captain America sometimes gets the first one gets a little too much hate, but it was a bit corny, to be honest. I still liked it. But man, Pirates of the Caribbean, that first one, I know Don Willie says, yeah, Johnny Depp is really what made that movie. And yeah, he was phenomenal, and that character was super entertaining, but there's a lot of other good characters too. Like Norrington was funny. Jonathan Pryce was funny as the governor. He was kind of it was like a lot of subtle humor. And then Jeffrey Rush, I thought was a great pirate captain. And it was just a good fun movie. I liked the first Pirates of the Caribbean better than I liked the first Captain America. Though we get to the second Pirates of the Caribbean, and it gets kind of a bit crazy. By the time we're in the third one, it's total nonsense. They're jumping off the ships like they're Spider-Man or something. I'm like, what am I watching here? Am I watching Pirates of the Caribbean, or am I watching, the Wrigley Brothers, the acrobats? So, yeah, it really fell off. And whereas Captain America, Winter Soldier, what can you say? I mean, that was just an awesome movie taken that without it being a superhero movie. It was just an awesome movie. It said a lot with just using superheroes with it. And Civil War was not as quite of a story-wise as good of a movie, but it took the action to a whole new level. I mean, Civil War and Winter Soldier are two of my top 3 comic book movies of all time. So I'm going Captain America here.
Yeah, and I have to agree with all y'all without a doubt that Captain America beats it. I am not a Pirates of the Caribbean fan whatsoever. The first one was aight, but nothing really special to me. As for Captain America, I think it could be maybe one of the only movie trilogies that every movie may have gotten better as it went on. And I just don't know how Pirates of the Caribbean can even compete with that. So Captain America for me, without a doubt. Captain America moves on. So for our final matchup in the Back to the Future bracket, we have Austin Powers taking on the Godfather.
All right, you guys are going to probably flip and hate me. Now, I'm not going to say that Godfather isn't great. The first two are really good, but I've never watched them I've only watched them twice. Or once apiece. The third one was horrible. I hated it. I'm not denying they're great things, but they're just movies that I don't want to watch again. They're long, and yeah, they're great movies. But Austin Powers, I laughed my ass off to him. So you guys, I know he's gonna lose, but I'm going Austin Powers.
That's your pick. Your pick is Austin Powers. There's nothing wrong with that. Jerry, are you going with the Shag Man himself, or you with LT?
All right, so let's take this back to 1996 when I went and saw Austin Powers. I was 13. All those dick and fart and sexual innuendos jokes were right up my alley. I was all about, being a horny little 13-year-old. I was like, yeah, baby, yeah. And then, 2 came out, and I was a little bit older. I was like, yeah, it's still kind of funny. And then 3 came out, and I'm like, okay, I really can't laugh at this anymore. Godfather Part 1. Even when I was 13 and I saw that movie, I knew that thing was amazing. It just so well acted, so well done, story told perfectly, has switches from, the Don to Michael. The subtle strategy involved with those little games that the mafias are playing against each other. That scene at the end where Michael wipes him out, it's so memorable. Game of Thrones stole it. That's how good it was. Godfather 2, some people like it better than the first. I like the first a little bit better, but it's like 1A, 1B. Godfather 3 was not that strong of a flick, but you know what? It wasn't that bad. It wasn't horrible. It was better than any of the... Even the third Godfather was better than any of the Austin Powers movies, so... There's my answer, Godfather.
Godfather.
Hopefully James is done laughing now.
James. Who you
All
going
right.
with?
I'll break it down here. All right. Austin Powers 1. Just magnificent. Spy Who Shagged Me. Instant classic. Gold member. Just fantastic film that I've never seen.
Baby.
No, I'm just messing. It's Godfather. I ain't even gonna say anything more.
Godfather for James Michelle. John Willie.
Yeah, I'm not even going to pussyfoot around with this Godfather. It's not even close.
I hear you. I'm going with you on the Godfather myself. I think Godfather could have been its own bracket if you really came down to it. So without a doubt, LT is on the island by himself with the Shagalicious.
Do you guys remember The Sopranos? And they said Tony would come to tears from, I think, Godfather 1 or 2. I can't remember which one it was, but it would make him cry.
It'd probably make him cry if he heard you picking Austin Powers over it.
Oh, he's probably crying in heaven right now.
Yeah, without a doubt. I don't know. Hey, I'm glad LT stuck to his convictions. That's what you gotta do, man. That's what it's all about.